Well, good morning, all. This is going to be a silly clip. Well, not a silly clip. I thought you might like to come with me round the garden today. I'm doing, I'll take you around the farm, show you what's going on. It's mid-March, so we might do a little garden tour. I've got lots of pricking out to do, so we'll have some fun in the pricking out department. Yes, I know, niche thrills. And I wondered also, this is slightly tongue-in-cheek, but I think it's worth looking at what a flower farmer like me here in southwest Somerset wears on a Saturday in mid-March to go gardening. So here am I in my bedroom. For those of you who know Georgie, of course we have one of, I can't do this. I might have to turn the whole thing round and then you can see what I've got. And for those of you who are new to the channel, please subscribe. Press the bell icon and we'll tell you when we've got more clips coming up. If any of the tips and tricks I give you throughout the day, probably not including too much of the fashion, but there will be quite a lot of gardening, are useful, you can always buy me a coffee, or for more fun and games, and I have to say it is good fun, you can always join my club. We had a great live at 5, which the club members can catch up with on marketing flowers just now on Thursday, and I'm planning more for next week. It's the lives at 5s that are really driving the club, and it's a fantastic way for flower farming and flower growers community to get together and talk to each other, with me kind of I'm sort of just coordinating the questions and answers. It's great fun. Anyway, do join the club. Enough of that. Let's get on with what we've got here. So we're really lo-fi because I'm upstairs in my bedroom and I haven't got my microphone or my apron. Anyway, what am I wearing to keep warm? It was trying to snow this morning. It's not a nice day outside. So, always odd socks. Because one must keep oneself amused at all times. And I love to look down at a pair of odd socks. Marks and Spencer's size 16 jeans, because sheer comfort. My son's belt, thief. Obviously, layering is everything. My cousin Matthew is going to be watching this, and I bet you he makes a comment. Damot vest. Got to have a vest, keep your kidneys warm. Very important. Invest in a vest. Nice last summer, bit thin for today, but it'll do. Gerard Darrell frilly shirt. Again, I like a bit of detail in my life, a little frill. Makes me feel as though I like to dress up for my job. Even if I do buy one shirt and wear it for 3 years until there's nothing, it goes in the bin because it's fallen apart. The sweater, I love the sweater, is Aribe knitwear. They are in Scotland, and this was an investment. This is the end of its second winter. And I have worn it and worn it and worn it. It gets washed about once every 6 weeks, but I basically wear it every day. And I love it. When it's warmer weather, I have another one. Hold on. Also a Rebay, the tank top, which I just love. Anyway, the quality is fantastic. It's got feather on it. And I love that. So I love an Rebay sweater, but those are the two I have. Very old toggy jacket, toggy waistcoat. And some of you might have been around long enough that you remember me getting a new one of these. At some point last winter, I got a new red one because this is falling apart. It's literally shredding. And I put my hand in my pockets and it's horrible. But the new one is so nice that I've kept it for best. So I'm still gardening in this one, but I love it. It's, again, you've got to keep your kidneys warm. If you keep your kidneys warm, you won't get cold. Top tip. I will, when I get downstairs, add a pair of Merry People boots, which I love. They're fantastic. And they're orange. They make me happy. And you'll see behind me, here in my bedroom, as we call them in my family, the bedroom, we have a Georgie quilt. So this is Georgie's, my mum, and those of you who've seen her, you know she's a good quilter. And then my great-grandmother's eider down, in 1920s salmon sateen. This duvet cover was a lockdown brush to the head, Designers Guild, but actually I love it. And underneath, I have linen sheets because I've inherited them from my grandmother, and they're all sides to middled because they've been worn for so long. Anyway, another one of Googie's quilts on the headboard, and that is the glamour of my bedroom. And there's my outfit, apart from the apron. I've got to have the apron and the boots. Let's go. Right, I'm nearly ready to go outside. I have added a slop over the top to keep the wind out from my arms and keep the mud off my precious Aribe jumper. My collar is all stuck. I've added my Common Farm Flowers apron. Never go anywhere without your brand on your breast. But also, I use it to wipe my hands all the time, so it keeps my clothes clean. And I've got my snits in my pocket. No, I haven't. Yes, I have. I've got my snits in my pocket, my inside pocket. I've got my gloves to hand because it's really cold. Gloves. But first, before I go out, I'm going to quickly put some soup on because then there'll be lunch when I'm hungry and I'm cold. By the way, the picture there is by my friend Katie James Artist, and it's a portrait of Fabrizio and me and the children and tea cake the border in the dahlia patch a few years ago before lockdown. Very precious family heirloom thing. So here are the contents for what I call bottom of the fridge soup. Basically, what's in the bottom of the fridge needs eating up with added beans for health, and tea cake is stuck outside and we're on the side of the door. Little turmeric to keep us alive for longer, and I'll put a lid on it and cook it very slowly until lunchtime. Right, final touch. Well, tea cake longs to get outside, but I will take off my indoor clogs, which are cheap and cheerful, put on my Merry People boots, which obviously I don't live with David Hockney, but we all wish we were David Hockney because he is super cool, and so those are my daughter's David Hockney Crocs. So let's whip round fairly quickly on account of I've got quite a lot to do. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour. 3 new bags of Dalefoot compost arrived on Friday to go on the beds which haven't been mulched yet. And then we're done. And every winter we mulch all the beds. And I am firmly of the belief that if you mulch your beds well in the winter, you will suffer less from global warming, increased heat in the summer, and or drought. I'll leave that with you. Peat-free compost only, because it's not sustainable to use peat-based composts. So find some good peat-free compost, like Dalefoot from Penrith, or make your own. So as you can see, the willow has been cut back. It's called Pollarding. We use a lot of it for our Christmas wreaths, or we sell it wholesale for other people who want to make Christmas wreaths. And then we chop back, but look, imagine the wildlife that can live in and overwinter in here. And sometimes Fabrizio helps the situation along a bit by adding in extra living quarters. Look at that. I love the way he's made a tunnel to get up behind the bird box. And there's another one round here. So the beetles can get behind, but so can the mice get behind to eat the beetles. So can the birds get behind. The wrens can get in to get the beetles. But there was a sort of lip sticking out here. He took that off so that the magpies wouldn't use the lip to sit on to eat the baby birds. There you are. And behind there's Granny's house, the tractor shed. And here we have signs of life on the crabapple trees. I've already been negotiating sales of crabapple in full flower with one of my wholesale customers. So I hope we won't get late frosts that kill off and brown the crabapple blossom. You can see where the birds during the winter ate what the berries, the fruit that was left on the tree was all eaten off by mostly thrushes, fieldfare and redwing, and blackbirds in the deep midwinter. Looking cold and sort of a bit sulky here in the pitch by yard, but if I march along at relative speed, there's the honesty. Gosh, it's been a cold winter for us, but you can see here come the tulips, slowly, slowly. Tulipa maxima. This feels very different up here because we've cleared, I've laid that hedge around the project, so suddenly we've got much more space. It's really very nice, and if I get my way, we are about to spend a merry fortune fencing the whole plot, which will mean that I can take out, here come the tulips, I can take out all this interior fencing, which just gets in the way really, and it means that I walk too far. And walking far is fine for your health, but slightly slows you down if you're a flower farmer. So I want to get rid of all this fencing. So the new fencing is going to go all the way around the edge of the place. But first we have to put some drainage in along here. So Fabrizio and James made this beautiful ride. I think it's lovely. I feel as though I'm sort of in a park in Russia with this ride. Sorry about the pile of gravel in front of us, but that's all to do with the project. And here's my new tribute to Three Porch Farm Hellebore Glade, which I planted on Thursday, I think. And there's a clip about how I arrange floristry with the Hellebores, and I'm hoping they'll take. And they are just next door to the lady smock. Not an enormous amount happening up here at the pitch by yard yet, but most of the beds have been mulched. They'd have a quick weed over. My stepdaughter did a quick mow last week, so thank you for that, Tilly Pops. And we're just sort of tidy. It's got that sort of, there's a sort of holding your breath feeling about the plot. This is where mostly it's perennials and shrubs. A lot of alliums. Probably the first things to flower up here are alliums and random emergency Sweet William and Sweet Rocket. No, I have not pruned my hydrangeas yet. Much too cold. But the roses are looking all right. They've had a good pruning and a nice mulch. This patch of woodland that we've got going all the way along the top of the flower farm, it's sort of 30 foot all the way around the edge. It's lovely for wildlife, very good wind break, but I also have it underplanted with quite a lot of shrubs that I use quite indiscriminately to cut. So there's some nice winter flowering honeysuckle, which smells delicious in the winter, but when the leaves come out, it's a really fantastic cut foliage. It's my favourite foliage for April. And here's a Physocarpus darts gold, very zingy green. So all of this is for cutting, as well as making a windbreak to protect the patch. And here's our tea cake, who likes to just potter about and keep up. And what have we got here? This is classic Fabrizio. He's protecting the emerging leaves of wild orchids from rabbits. And so in the middle there, can you see the pointy leaves? Whoops, there. Those are wild orchids, which Fabrizio is protecting from marauding varmints. Right, tea cake? This is one of our wildflower meadows. So the plots, the cut flower patches, obviously that's where we make a living, but they're all surrounded by wildflower patches, because the ethos of this business is that if you look after the invertebrates, the rest of the food chain will look after itself. Oh yes, we do, like a happy, snappy hashtag. And this pea netting is only here for the short term. It's to protect the frogspawn from the heron. And you can see where Fabrizio's just stretched it over the pond using some of our pigtail spikes, homemade ones this time. And then once the frogspawn's hatched and safely can look after itself a bit better, he'll take it away, put it away, and use it again next year. It's always worth keeping standing seed heads to feed birds. And if you feed birds, then you're feeding you need a food chain. We're in the food chain. You've got to look after the whole food chain. Try not to break any of it. Yes, says Tea Cake. I'm in the food chain, and I really like a scrambled egg. And these are poplar. We planted them by striking them in the ground. And at this time of year, if you squeeze them, squeeze the fat buds. Look at that fat bud. If I squeeze it, you see that lovely juice. It's sticky propolis, sticky sap. And my fingers will now smell like honey all day long, which I love. This is another wildflower meadow, and I love Fabrizio. This is what he does. You see this stake here? That's to tell you that you may not step onto the meadow further than the stake. Well, you may not, I may not, but in the middle of the patch, can you see where my finger's pointing? There. Whoops. He's been there. He's allowed in there. There's something there that he's circled to protect from the rabbits. So when we fence this big fencing project that's going to cost a few quid, you see the height of this fence? I'm only 5'2". Deer. This is our issue. We've got to keep the deer out. This area is called the Gilly Orchard because my mother Googie gave us the trees, which are now about, I should think they're 15 years old. And this is wild flowers as well. And if I walk around the edge, I daren't walk into the middle for fear of being told off. But look, you have to learn to get your eye in to see what you can see. That's a snake's head fritillary, and they're all over this area. And we've been trying to establish them for years and years and years. The problem is the pheasants come along and bite their heads off, but we're getting there. And here's another wild area with a pond in it. Look, can you see Fabrizio's chair? He likes to sit and contemplate the wild. And all our wild patches have piles of rotting wood, because if you have a flourishing population of beetles, then you'll have a flourishing population of birds. And if you have a flourishing population of birds, then you have a flourishing population of life. So there we are. But he does mow a little bit This is mown because then the wild, it keeps the grass down so that the wild can come up. So this patch, in a few weeks, maybe a month, 6 weeks, will be cowslips, and then ragged robin, and soon there will be in the pond, Fabrizio does love a pond, we have the national collection of ponds here, but soon there will be in the pond kingcups, which are bright yellow, sort of bright yellow. They look like pond buttercups. Anyway, they're not there yet. Slowly, slowly, the spring will come. And this, soon, May time, will be, well no, April it'll be a bank of cowslips, and then June and July it's a bank of pyramidal orchids, because they like the drainage underneath. Once upon a time there was a building here, and so they're growing out of very, very well drained kind of rubble covered with the earth. And this area is called the piggery because once upon a time we had 2 pigs in here clearing it, and they were delicious. And this is where the polytunnels are, and I've got the hose pipe out because I'm going to water the tunnels, it being Saturday. Generally the tunnels get watered on Saturdays, and this is where I'm going to have some fun because I forgot. Look, here are the dahlias all tucked up tight in the warm. We've had some cold nights, but they have survived. And I made a clip earlier in the week about how I set them up to sprout. So you can always look back for that. And looking in here now is absurd because I only set them up like 4 days ago. But you know, always good to have a look. And the reason I'm in here really is because I want to water all those seedlings before I start pricking them out. And in here I have a watering can which I've left full in here, so it's warmer. I don't want to shock my seedlings before I prick them out by giving them cold water. Poor loves, they like warm baths. They like to be very, very, very cosseted, and then they will do better. Cosset your seedlings with warm water. Look, the sweet peas are pouncing. Look, fresh new growth. Time to tie them in to get them going. So I'm going to spend the day pricking out all of these babies, get them sorted out, and while I do it, I lean my phone up against the shelf here and I listen to the Rest is History podcast back to back all afternoon. I've started right back at the beginning and I'm just going to listen to the whole thing. So, have a lovely day everybody. Enjoy your gardens. Get outside if you can. Even if it's bitterly cold, fresh air will do you an enormous amount of good. And I will see you very soon. Have a good weekend. Bye.